This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review. My name is Ronnie. I'll be your host once again. Do me a favor, tap on the like button, drop a comment into the chat to let me know where you guys are chiming in from. It's good to see you. We're back. Here we go. Welcome back. Brennan, Germany, what's going on? How are you? London, what's up? What's up, Ronnie? Hello, how are you, friend? That's loud in my ear. Virginia Beach, what's up, Virginia? Another Virginian? Yes. Durham, England. Quebec. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You know, I've never been to the Gettysburg battlefield. I really, really want to do that. We have a ton of battlefields around where I live, but I've never been to Gettysburg. NorCal. How do you say that? Jotunborg? Is that how you say that in Sweden? I don't know. We're going to work on some pronunciations tonight, I promise. Germany, New Hampshire. What's going on? Butts County, Georgia, Southwest Florida. Well, welcome in once again. Thank you for always humoring me on the very odd opening that I do for this stream. I'm not even sure. I don't know how to open streams. I haven't known how to do it on my personal streams that predate the Funker 530 show. I don't know how to do it here. Largely because I don't consider this to be a show. I consider this to be more of a sit down and show you all the sites that we saw. Sometimes they're bad. And there's a reason that I don't put a whole lot of structure around it. You know, we don't have lower third pop-ups and, you know, funny guests. I mean, sometimes we'll have somebody help me co-host it, like the time we did it with Cappy. But I've always looked at this show as something a little bit different than what some would expect out of like a polished kind of, you know, news-ish live stream. It just feels different to me, just the type of content that we cover. Anyway, let's talk about tonight, though. Tonight is sponsored by Venture Surplus. You guys can get 10% off of Venture Surplus by using the code FUNK10, F-U-N-K-10. 10% on anything that's over there. They've got MREs. That's something I've been talking about for quite a bit, especially after my trip down to North Carolina, having a store of food, which they have lots of different freeze-dried goods, is going to be something you want to start investing into. So take a look at the freeze-dried goods that they have. If you're looking for milsurp of really any kind, load-bearing equipment, assault packs, stuff like that, 10% off, all for you. We don't make any additional money when you guys use that FUNK10, venturesurplus.com. Thanks very much to Venture Surplus. And thank you guys for being here. We've got quite a bit that I want to cover tonight. We've got some tragedy on Christmas, actually probably quite a bit of it that we're going to talk about. We'll be talking about the Azerbaijan Airlines plane that went down. We have the benefit of hindsight here on the show. We didn't have that, you know, over the week, but at this point, I think there have been quite a few bits and pieces of information that we can probably go over to paint a picture of at least what the leading theory, if not the truth, around that is. We'll also be seeing some footage, I want to say, from Syria. We will spend a little bit of time in Syria tonight. I've got a little bit of a coffee break for you from the Philippines. It's a little bit dated of footage, but you'll understand what I mean when we get there. And then from Ukraine, I have a couple of really interesting things that I want to cover, along with some pronunciation. But let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is this Azerbaijan Airlines plane. We're going to be headed to Baku. Pulling that up for you now. Let's talk about, I'm going to set the stage for you, if you will. Here's the map. Here is the Caspian Sea, and this is Baku. Okay, to the left here you have Azerbaijan and Armenia, the Nagorno-Karabakh is an area that we've talked about before, where there is a lot of turmoil, a lot of warring and strife and conflict over the Nagorno-Karabakh. Then you have Georgia here with South Ossetia and Abkhazia and Russia's occupation there. But then up to the north, you're going to have Grozny. To the east, across the Caspian Sea, you have Aktau. This is Kazakhstan over here. A plane took off from Baku. This was the Azerbaijan Airlines plane. It went down under what I would describe as mysterious circumstances, right? Anytime a passenger airliner goes down, people start asking questions. Here is some of the footage of the last moments of that plane as it plummeted to the earth. Let me log into the website so we don't get any ads here. Coming up now.
Yeri değmekle bu kadar değişiyor sorulmaz. Biraz mağmalı budur. Bak buna bakın, oralar hangisi değişti.
Барлығы 67 адам болған, соның 62-сі борт ішіндегі адамдар, 5 адамы борт қызметкерлері. Соның 25 адамы қазіргі таңда бізде ауруханаға жеткізілді, ауыр жағдайда. Қазіргі таңда төтенше жағдайлар департаменті.
This is footage from inside the plane immediately after hitting the ground. This is inside of the tail section, specifically. And you'll see survivors actually coming out of this tail section of the plane. This is, interestingly, this is on board the plane prior, and this is a lot of footage. Let me explain what the video is that you're seeing here. So Will Kilmore, you guys know him. He is the one that uploaded this for us. When there's a major event like this, what we'll do is we'll try and compile a bunch of different perspectives, a bunch of different videos into kind of one long compilation, if you will. So although it's a little bit out of timeline order, we were really just pushing these all together. This video, the one that we're looking at right now, is prior to the plane going down, but after what was described by passengers as an explosion outside the cockpit, or excuse me, outside the cabin. Back to the video. Note the damage here. Flying above the clouds, still some modicum of control. This is an interesting one. So what you're seeing there on the ground is blood. This passenger is injured by fragmentation of some kind. She's currently covering her leg with what appears to be a jean jacket there, but just at the bottom of those that seat, you can see a pool of blood underneath of it. Again, prior to the plane hitting the ground. Holes. So we saw holes in the exterior of the plane, but what we're seeing is holes throughout the interior as well. That is in one of the life vests. There's a hole in it from fragmentation of some kind. Let's come back up because I've got more data to share with you. I want to talk a little bit about the flight path and some of the things surrounding the plane that were taking place. We'll get there in just a second. Here is the flight path, or at least what is known of the flight path. Ronnie, what the hell do you mean? Why don't we know what the flight path was? Well, we'll talk about that. Give me a second. This is from Flight Radar. Flight Radar 24. If you don't follow them on Twitter, I'd recommend it. Always sharing a lot of really good information about, aircraft moving in and around. This is from an OSINT perspective, a source that a lot of people will use. This is the flight path that's known here from Baku on its way to Grozny. And at some point, Flight Radar lost contact from a GPS perspective. So that's the way that they essentially track all of these planes, is via GPS. And at some point, GPS dropped out. Why would that be? Well, as it turns out, that plane was being GPS jammed, or that area at least was being GPS jammed. I'm going to show you guys a map. Flight Radar maintains this map. And at any time, you can go and take a look at this. The link is what I put out on our Twitter. At any time, you can go and take a look at this to see over time on any date that you choose where exactly GPS jamming is taking place. So let's find the Caspian Sea here. On December 25th, this took place on Christmas. This is that area right here. So Baku would be here, Grozny up here. So at some point along that route, which you saw on the map that I showed you, they lost contact with that. That's an important thing to remember because a lot of people were talking about proximity relative to air defense, showing that the plane went down near Aktau and it being generally outside of the range of a lot of Russia's air defense capabilities. Let's go back to the last map to show the flight path. So at here, Flight Radar lost GPS with this plane. It then regained GPS out here over the Caspian Sea. Look at the flight pattern. It's pretty erratic all the way into the ground. I'll do you one better. Also using Flight Radar and the power of technology. Here's the flight path.
Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 departed Baku for Grozny, Russia at 03:55 UTC. Less than 3 hours later, the aircraft would crash near Aktau, Kazakhstan, after limping through the sky across the Caspian Sea. Here's what we know so far about the crash of Flight 8243, based purely on the data sent by the aircraft. After departing Baku, the flight followed the coast along the Caspian Sea towards Grozny. 30 minutes into the flight, the aircraft encountered GPS interference and stopped transmitting its position, a common occurrence in this area due to ongoing warfare. Heading data sent by the aircraft shows that the flight continued on the same heading for 12 additional minutes until 04:37 UTC. At that point, the aircraft stopped transmitting useful data and was subject to GPS spoofing, which erroneously moves the aircraft's position to near Adran, Russia. Using the raw ADS-B data, we have compiled a fuller picture of the possible flight path of J2-8243. From 0513, the flight resumes sending data in a degraded mode, a now common occurrence after an aircraft is subject to GPS interference. Data during this period did not include the position updates, normally associated with ADS-B data. At 0607, the aircraft began sending valid ADS-B data, including position updates. Using the position update...
There was a question in the chat a moment ago. I need to pause for a second because I'm about to cover something very important about this waiting maneuver. A waiting maneuver is essentially you are in a bank or effectively staying in one spot, awaiting instructions from potentially an airport to land. I'm going to cover that here in a second. Let's go back to this.
Data during this period did not include the position updates, normally associated with ADS-B data. At 0607, the aircraft began sending valid ADS-B data, including position updates. Using the position update from 0607 and the timestamped heading and indicated airspeed data received between 0513 and 0607, we have calculated a probable flight path using reverse dead reckoning. This is the first time we have conducted such an analysis of the data, and we are continuing to explore what further analysis may be possible. From 0513 until the crash at 0628, the aircraft struggled to maintain control, oscillating in altitude as it flew across the Caspian Sea and descended toward Aktau. The aircraft climbed and descended between plus 8,000 feet per minute and minus 8,000 feet per minute and came very close to the water as it approached the Kazakh shore. These oscillations occurred 100 times between somewhere in Russia and the aircraft's final moments. From 0607,
Look at that for a second. You're seeing elevation change up and down and up and down and left and right. I'm going to cover that in a second as well.
these oscillations occurred 100 times between somewhere in Russia and the aircraft's final moments. From 0607, full ADS-B data was received, showing the controllability issues with the aircraft. It appears the pilots attempted multiple approaches without success and crashed just over the coastline near Aktau Airport.
Let's bring it back up. Now, I'm going to show you guys an up-close video of some of that external damage, and then I'm going to give you the nail in the coffin, exactly what the result of the preliminary investigation was that was conducted by Azerbaijan. You're making your way around the back side of the tail section of this plane right now. It's important to understand that the tail section of the plane is inverted, so it's laying on its top. You're moving from technically the left side of the plane, were it right side up, around the rear to the right side of the plane. You have entry and exit. So you have the entire right side of, or excuse me, left side of this plane is all entry. All entry. This is all entry. As soon as we move around to the right side of the plane, because again, the plane right now, the tail section is inverted. It's all exit. So if we were to go back to our map, showing it moving along the coast, whatever took it down came from the left towards Grozny. And slightly up as well. So this is a little bump out on the plane, right? This would have been the top of the tail section that you're looking at here. And you have exits coming out the top of that. Now, here's the results. So this is what happened. Ukraine was flying drones over Grozny at the time. Let me show you guys this video. These are drones flying over Grozny. And they're being shot out of the sky.
Biz piloting dus een Martin. Allahu Akbar.
Air defense was active in the area because largely they were dealing with airborne threats via drone. GPS jamming was active in the area largely and more than likely because A, there's a war zone there, and B, because they were dealing with drones primarily operating off of GPS. The investigation in the exclusive is from Euronews. I have a link for you in our stream description on Twitter of tonight's show. The investigation ultimately resulted that it most certainly was a Russian air defense munition, specifically a Pantsir S. Now, that uses blast fragmentation, which is exactly what we saw in that video, those entry points and exit points for that. Any potential for it to have been a bird strike on the engine, that is mitigated by other video that does not show the engines having an issue. Or they're not on fire. They're not smoking, right? So they were effectively operating without a whole lot of control over that plane. Here is an ultimate point that I really do want people to understand. Based on what you saw in Flight Radar's analysis, those pilots absolutely big-dicked that plane all the way across the Caspian Sea. 38 people were killed, but dozens of people are alive solely because of those pilots. Now, technically speaking, what I just described is a circumstance that is wholly unfortunate. Effectively, Russia's jamming radar to try and keep those drones from being able to find their locations. They had activated air defense to protect their assets in the area. Here's where it gets a little bit fucked up. I'm going to say it. There's some information coming out now to include audio, which I don't have here on the show tonight because I can't personally validate it, but to include audio that the investigation found Russia denied landing. That holding pattern that you saw the plane in there over Grozny was them requesting to land for an emergency. If you go back to some of the other footage that we watched, we saw a relatively controllable plane for at least a little while. There's some level of likelihood that were they allowed to land, a lot of those 38 people that are killed may very well be alive right now. Now, you guys know the guy, you guys know who it is that I'm about to source, but AngerTab, Speak the Truth. They're the ones that have released some of the audio that I listened to earlier, and it's pretty damning stuff. But again, according to the Azeri investigation, Russia denied landing of that and told them to cross the Caspian Sea. Did they do that because they were hoping that they were going to go down and essentially that was going to cover up the evidence? I don't know. It's up to you. Let's move on. That's everything that I have for you guys that I wanted to cover. I will paste in the chat the link to the Euro News report. Here. That's the link that's going to take you over to the preliminary investigative findings. Russia has come out with a statement after that saying, nuh-uh, we told them they could land. That audio tells a different story, though. We're going to move into the footage that I have from Israel. So we'll end up jumping back to Ukraine footage here in a little bit, but I wanted to cover a few important things from Israel. First, I'll set the stage for you. This next video that we're going to watch is going to take you on a tour de Gaza from this location just to the southwest of Gaza City, all the way to that location. Some pretty interesting footage coming up for you here. And I do want to reiterate that that investigation was conducted by Azeris. And it ultimately came to those conclusions without any audio from Matt Tardio. You know, I trust that Matt found what he found and has his ways to validate it. You know, I speak with Matt quite regularly. But ultimately, let's pause for a second and keep talking about this because I think it's important. But ultimately, just about everything that we covered there, all of those findings, they all come from that preliminary investigation. So the Euro News report that I sourced in our Twitter post, I do one each week for the show. I can no longer fit the amount of stuff that we cover on each show in the YouTube description. So I post it to our Twitter, our X, whatever. You can find a link to it there, and you can also find the link that I just dropped into the live chat. Now, if you're watching after the show, I'll see if, hopefully I'll remember, maybe if you guys can help remind me on the follow-up stream to post a link for the VOD viewers that are out there. But the circumstances leading up to it being shot down, I can piece those together as a wholly unfortunate accident. denying its landing, forcing it to fly across the Caspian Sea, forcing those pilots, once again, this is technical terminology, to big dick that plane all the way across the Caspian Sea with the maneuvers that they were having to do to keep it airborne. That's what needs to be better understood. Let's go back to this footage from Gaza, and then we'll be circling all the way back to Ukraine a little bit later on tonight in the show. I don't know what this music is. I'm going to turn that off. Jingle truck music or something. All right. We have I think we completed that run through like 2 or 3 times. Still in Gaza, we're going to take a look at some footage that's a bit dated, you know, and I apologize for this ahead of time that it is dated. It's from a couple weeks ago. But I had a bunch of travel in December and in November, so I wasn't here to cover some of this stuff. These are IDF combat engineers just pinned down inside of this building with casualties taking place, really just trying to find where the bad guys are, and it turns out they're on a floor below them. There's no music on this. It is just raw combat, and I want to make sure on the combat footage review, this is the type of stuff that we want to cover here. Again, a little bit dated, but this is the IDF in close quarters battle with Hamas in Gaza.
חבר'ה, מאיפה הירי? מישהו מזהה? לא! מישהו מזהה מאיפה הירי? לא לסוס! כן! אנחנו לא יכולים לעבור את הגרם! אתה תקין? פלח, אתה תקין? יש לך 2 פצועים! חבר'ה, מכת אש, אני ובר יורדים למטה! מכת אש! מכת אש! מכת אש!
Just to help contextualize what just happened, they just realized that they had 2 wounded on a floor below them. This guy's, once again, a technical term, this guy's going to big dick it down these stairs, going to come into contact and rush back up them. I just wanted to put that into context for you.
קודקוד מ3, קודקוד מקובי. חבר'ה, הם בפתח! חטפנו רימון עכשיו בפתח! רות, אנחנו יורדים לקוף, קיבלת? רות, אני יודע. חבר'ה, מכת אש, בלי רימונים, אני ובר יורדים. קודקוד חטף כדור ברגל. תהיה מוכן לטיפול, קודקוד. יאללה, מוכנים למכת אש? יאללה, חבר'ה, מכת אש! שלנו, להיות מוכנים לברחנים, להיות מוכנים לברחנים.
Just to answer the question, there's a question out there. The IDF is using carry handle M4s? Yes, but they also have a Mi Pro mounted just to the just forward of that carry handle here.
עוד רימון! יש פה! איתי! חפל קדימה! סע! בסטיין!
This guy's holding a hand grenade right now, by the way. So they just tossed one, But this dude next to him is like two-handing a hand grenade. It reminds me, I don't mean to draw light of this situation, but it reminds me of Anchorman. Brick, where'd you get a hand grenade? I don't know. That's what comes to mind there. I'm about it, dude. Don't drop it, please.
משימתנו רק לפתוח את הצד ימין, לראות מה יש שם. יש שם גופת מחבל. כמה שפחות אנשים. להיות יעילים בזהירות.
So something else that comes to mind here, just to, I mean, I don't speak Hebrew, but just to bring things, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing an NCO or, you know, potentially an officer of some kind just really taking control. And the chaos is something that stands out here to me. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is not critique. Certainly not. This is observation because I'm an intel dweeb. All right. This is not my space. But seeing this dude essentially directing traffic, herding cats almost inside of what is an horridly complex situation that I would best describe as absolute ass. That's what I take away from this. Now, I want to say that there's other footage that we've seen here before where in this same building, just from a different perspective or a different angle at a different time of this firefight, I have it in my head movies, but I'm drawing a blank on when exactly that was. It was a few months ago. But this is the kind of stuff that the combat footage review is here for. It's for us to take a look at this and then take a look at it across a body of time to take lessons from it. The lesson that I take from this is the same one that I talked about in the past. CQB looks like it sucks, and it would probably be better if they didn't have wounded in that building to potentially level the entire structure, if I'm being honest. If they have a way to just get out of there and maybe just bring the rubble down around them, that's probably what I'd do. Anyway, let's bring it back up. And we're going to take a look at some Apaches in an air defense role. This one was interesting. Holy crap. I will be jumping on that here in just a second, Texas Actual. Thank you for that.
למה לא מורידים אותו?
תורידו אותו כבר. עבר מעל הראש שלך עכשיו. הנה, בום! מוריד אותו.
וואו. וואו.
What's that, KA-52? No, that's an AH-64.
וואו.
Just taking a pause for a second because I don't think I have ever seen anything like that. Texas Actual, thank you for gifting 50 memberships on the channel. Thank you for that, man. This stream is 100% free. You'll never catch me asking for anything from you guys except potentially just participating in the chat. Maybe using the little thumbs up button or the thumbs down one, to be honest with you. Whichever one you want to put. That is well above and beyond, man, and I'm not sure that I am eloquent enough to relay appreciation for it. Nor do I think I can truly describe how appreciative I am of Tom for his 631. Always come here when I need to understand the context. I give it to you based on what I understand it to be. If next week I come back and it turns out this thing hit a bird and somehow fragmentation from that bird strike went from the engine at airspeed all the way up and underneath of the aircraft and then came up through the bottom left of it, I will be happy to put that out. Thank you for the 631, brother. Dralo, thank you for the $5. Happy birthday, Ronnie. Not my birthday. Still waiting on the Canadian flag for Funker. Not gonna happen, dog. Yeah, which is not we're not rolling the leaf, bro. I'm good. I'm more apt to turn you into the 51st state than anything else. Make Alberta America. It would be again. I don't know. Or excuse me, Greater Montana. Make Alberta Greater Montana. MAGM. That's the campaign that I'm here for. Alberta's beautiful. I hope you guys were here for the trailer of the Rob Furlong trip that's going to launch on January 1st. Go check out the trailer for that. Appreciate, thank you for the $2. You and your team do great work. I'm just privileged to be a part of it, man. Just one small part. And thank you for the $2. John, thank you for the $5. Will the 6th gen Chinese fighters or the new drone carrier be featured tonight? No, we have the footage on the website. You know, looks like a flying Dorito, and I don't know. I don't know dick about airframes. Sometimes they fly, and if they don't, that makes it bad. I would say that I need to do a little bit more research before I try and cover anything like that. But please do go and check out the footage. I've watched all the footage. Thank you very much for that. And there was one prior. Oh, there was a bunch prior. Excuse me. John. Oh, thanks again for the 5. Compiled Tech. Thank you for the 5. Does Funker have the Striker video from Iraq involving a poor donkey? No. Maybe. I don't know. If not, how do you upload it to your platform? There's a couple ways you can do that. You can put it up as an unlisted YouTube video and, send us that link. Funker530.com/submit. I think that still works. I built that submission form for us. Or you could tag us in it on Twitter, and we'll just retweet it and then archive it on the website, and it'll get a ton of views, and that sounds fun. Let's move on to our next bit of footage that we have here. Texas Actual, thank you for the $50, man. They're coming in so fast. I got to take a pause from those. That way we can get back to the footage here. Thank you guys so much for it, though. You do not have to do that, right? This stream is free. We have a surrender of what I would just describe as military-aged males in Gaza. I thought this was pertinent. That man's got his pants around his ankles. Let's bring it back up. Texas, thank you again. And thank you all. Like, seriously, Gunslinger, thanks for the 762, dude. Merry Christmas, Ronnie and crew, and a Merry Christmas to you, your family, and everybody else in the chat. Sincerely. On the follow-up stream, you'll get to see my Christmas tree over there. Let's hope the new year turns some of this crap around. We'll see what happens. In Herzliya. I don't know. An 83-year-old woman was attacked and killed by a Palestinian, presumably with a knife. Discretion advised on this one. I took a bunch of shit from the last stream for saying discretion advised in front of each of the videos. I just want you to understand something. I will continue to do that. There are people that continuously join this stream throughout the show, and I need to make sure they understand that what they're about to watch is probably, in some cases, the worst, if not the last day of some people's lives. So as people continue to join the stream throughout the entire show, it'll be important to remind people of that. Discretion advised. You're about to see an 83-year-old woman be attacked by a Palestinian and killed. But then there'll be a little bit of retribution after that. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Then they shot him. Good. Yeah. Should have shot him again. Come back up. And then this last video I picked purposefully to be the last one. Let's talk about history being made here. There is at least some, if not an overwhelming likelihood that the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense System, the THAAD, has been used for the first time in an operational environment by U.S. troops. This isn't the first time it's been used. The first time it was used operationally was in the UAE. They operate 2 batteries. The United States operates 7 batteries. Again, there are only 7 batteries of the THAAD, the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense System. This is meant for those really high flying targets. It has a floor of something like 40 to 50 kilometers on what it can engage. And when I say a floor, it's not hitting the stuff that the Iron Dome is, right? This is hitting those high flying ballistic missiles. And it has a ceiling of something like 150 to 200 kilometers. I'm not an air defense expert. Go check out HLC Actual, Habitual Line Crosser, friend of mine. This is quite possibly the first operational use of the United States troops operating a THAAD. And it took place in Israel, targeting a Houthi ballistic missile, probably a Burkan 2 maybe. I don't know. Here's the footage.
18 years waiting for this. 18 years waiting for this.
So, let's talk about some things here, right? There are certain professions in the United States military that just are on capabilities that are meant for something that is going to be very rare. Operationally speaking, use in combat. Intercepting ballistic missiles has historically, at least over the last 40 years or so, been relatively rare. What you just heard is presumably a United States, let's back up. The THAAD is operated by U.S. troops. The United States deployed a THAAD battery to Israel back on October, or they at least announced it on October 13th. So these are United States troops operating this THAAD battery, 1 of 7. An 8th is being built right now. And then there are 2 with the United Arab Emirates. So 9 total. Math was hard. I couldn't use my fingers there. Otherwise, I'd look like an idiot. Nobody said I wasn't, though. So this soldier, presumably, just said that he's been waiting 18 years for this. So it sounds like his MOS, because the THAAD is assigned to the U.S. Army, is in operating the THAAD. And he has spent the last 18 years waiting for the chance to fire one of these operationally. That's one of the indicators, though, that leads me to believe that this is likely the use of a THAAD. It's a very small one, but I talk a lot about probabilities. The video itself is so imperfect that it alone can oftentimes not lead you all the way to the likelihood of what it is you're seeing. Him saying that ultimately leads me further down that path to believe that this is the first United States employment of the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense System in a combat environment. Give it to you one more time, at least the launch. That bad boy's moving. So does it hit? Well, the ballistic missile didn't hit. So either, I don't know, that thing's either the ballistic missile is minute a grid square and landed in the water somewhere, or it intercepted it outside of the atmosphere, or at least high enough that we don't really see its full intercept. So it's up to you. Now, HLC, so Habitual Line Crosser, also posits an important point. So far, the THAAD has, if is doing a lot of carrying here. If this was a THAAD, and if that intercept was successful, it has a 100% intercept rate. because the last time it was used was in 2022. These poor Houthis, man, they can't catch a break. The last time it was used by the UAE in 2022 against a Houthi ballistic missile. Somebody asked, how the hell do the Houthis keep getting, ballistic missiles? Iran. It's Iranians. It's always been Iranians. It always will be Iranians. So we could just stop asking that question. With a little bit of support sprinkled in from Russia on things like targeting information for the Red Sea and civilian cargo ships that are floating through there, along with small arms. But mostly Iran. Let's move on. I need to pause because a bunch of support has come across, and thank you guys for it. Once again, definitely not necessary, but thank you guys so much. Tony, thank you for 5 gifted. Archeesy, $100 super chat, man. Hope you and the boys at Funker had a great Christmas. Here's to 2025. And once again, a Merry Christmas to you, sir, and thank you very much for that $100. That's a lot of dollars, dude. Let's move on. Speaking of Yemen, though, let's cover a little bit there. Israel has been conducting strikes in Yemen, one of which absolutely shithoused this control tower. That's at the international airport in Yemen's capital. What was once is no more. Now, along with these strikes, what was reported was that the Houthis operate a fleet of, or at least 2, I think it's like 2 F-5s, right? These are old. They belong in a museum. Supposedly those are gone now. Or was it 1? It wasn't a lot of them. You could count them on one hand. It was probably 1, could have been like up to 5. I don't know. They didn't have a lot, but it's gone. So, yeah. Moving on. We have some footage of those aircraft as they took off from Israel here. I think we're going to see both F-16 and F-15s in this. Here you are. Wait, what hit it? I don't know, an airstrike, man. If you ask Russia, it's probably a bird. Let's move on. Oh, one last note. Specific to airstrikes, it was reported not too long ago that the U.S. and or the U.K. were also conducting airstrikes. Since we've been live here, there might have been footage that was pushed out on those, but the information cutoff for the stream was right around 4 o'clock when I typically jump into the gym prior to the stream, so I stopped gathering information for the show then. We might end up having to cover that next week. Let's move to Syria. Here's an interesting one. So, I don't know where exactly in Syria this takes place. Potentially Homs. I don't know. But let's watch the footage. Here you go.
Let's go. Comment ça allait?
Let's talk about what you just watched. So this is, technically speaking, the Syrian government, or al-Nusra, or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or the opposition. These gunmen back here. Now, these homies riding 2 up on this motorbike here, one of them has a long gun of some kind. These are reportedly, I can't validate this for obvious reasons, former Assad regime troops. So you've got basically Al-Qaeda rolling around the corner here. Lady, of course, in the window. A little bit of a rolling gun battle. So not only are they shooting at Assad's troops, they're also shooting at each other, more or less, here. Crazy stuff. But then they're also going to shoot at this old lady that comes wandering from the grocery store or something in the back. Look, it's not even like it was accidental. They all get online here and start banging at this civilian. Just, I think she has like a grocery bag, maybe? Yeah, like there's a little white dot right there. Here, let's make this easier. There's a little white dot right there. I'm pretty sure it's like she got takeout food, you know, and they're... Look, they're all online shooting at this poor lady walking into her house.
Let's go. ¿Cómo se lee?
To be honest, they get online and engage that old lady or old man, I don't know, person better than they do the guys with the guns. Just saying. All right, let's bring it up. Now, somehow, okay, this is a running joke, but in certain circumstances, it actually does hold a little bit true. Somehow the next video we're about to watch is technically dependent upon how, well, not really dependent upon how you look at it. If you just boil it down enough to the foundations of it, technically what we're about to watch is American tax dollars fighting against American tax dollars. I'm not trying to propagandize that. I'm just saying quite literally, this is the type of circumstance that people are talking about when they get at that. This is going to be the Kurds, the SDF, using FPV drones to target a Turkish... hold on. That's the wrong one. I'll give you that one in a second. I'm going to go and find it. First, I'll give you a different one. Stand by. Talk amongst yourselves. I copied and pasted the wrong link for it. Let's head to the website. We'll just do it together. So let's go to Funker 530. And we'll go to the latest. And we'll click on... Oh, this is the one I wanted to cover real quick for you. So take a watch through this video. I'll explain this rifle here in a bit. I'm going to go grab the American, the taxpayer one while you're watching. Got it. So let's talk about this one, then we'll get to the M113. So what you're looking at here is the Zagros or the Share rifle, one of the two. So these are super interesting. This is the SDF's, supposedly, Kurds, firing against Syrian National Army positions, the Turkish-backed guys. That rifle is essentially a single-shot bolt gun built out of like Soviet-era anti-air barrels. It's either going to be in 12.7, 14.5, or 23 millimeter. That one looks like it's in 14.5. It's a little bit chonky. But for all intents and purposes, it's a very effective anti-materiel rifle, right? Now, the SDF has been provided a lot of arms from the United States historically. One of the things that they weren't provided were things like anti-materiel rifles. So these are homegrown by them. And again, all you really do is just take a... Ian from Forgotten Weapons has done an entire episode on this, which I linked in, once again, the stream description over on Twitter. What you do is you just take a barrel from like a ZSU or, you know, what is it, a Shilka. You take a pre-existing barrel and you build in a bolt and action around that, throw a scope on the top of it, put a 0 on it, and you have an anti-materiel rifle. That's effectively what you're looking at here. I want to say this is also taking place near Manbij. There is a current operation going on right now from the SDF to take more ground in Manbij. Now, let's go to this video that I wanted to show you, which is technically, again, technically, this would be your taxpayer dollars fighting against your taxpayer dollars. So let me break out the math on that. So the SDF, U.S. backed and funded under certain circumstances, right? So we've talked about that before, and under at least the official capacity of their support structure, it is against ISIS or against the Islamic State and the remnants and pockets of those that the SDF has been engaged against for some time. When they are engaged against others, to include the SNA, which has Turkish backing, the United States official policy that they've put out is that we are not providing support, materiel or otherwise. It's hard to argue against materiel support because if they just take the gun that you gave them from the first engagement with the Islamic State and then go and use that gun to shoot at the SNA, technically, that's one side of it. On the other side, you have an M113. We've seen a lot of footage of this from Ukraine being used. Many of you might be familiar with it and rode it in the military. It is a personnel carrier. The Turkish have a bunch of those, and they appear to have provided them to the SNA. We are going to see the SDF flying FPV drones against an M113. There's the math on it. Coming up now. I'm going to keep the music off. I've been dealing with a little bit of copyright problems. They're not strikes, they're just claims. But, dealing with them enough to try and manage that a little bit better. So here's the 113 right here in the middle. Looks oddly Ukrainian. Just looks like an FPV drone. What are you talking about? But this is the kind of stuff that people are talking about when they say my taxpayer dollars, also somehow my tax. But this is what they mean, right? So once upon a time, that was built here in the United States and then exported. It was potentially paid for. It could have been provided some other means. Who knows? It's kind of a stretch to be upset about things like that because that thing was made in like the 70s or the 80s, like your grandparents paid for that to be built. But at least this is kind of exemplary of that truly existing. And that's what I had in Syria. I'm going to put us on a coffee break here real quick, which is going to be a nicotine break for me. And it is quite literally a coffee break. This takes place in the Philippines, specifically during the Battle of Marawi. Words are hard. And it was around 2017. Pretty interesting video. Got to keep the sound off, though. So this is a Filipino special operations guy taking a cup of coffee to his boss, who is just a couple buildings over, through all the rubble. He made it all the way there without spilling it, though. Carry handle M4. I'm into it. Oop. Look at that. Look at that tiger stripe. All right. So now we should be headed into our Ukraine section that I have for this evening, which is quite a bit of footage. Oh, yeah. We're going to be starting in Kherson with the demining Ukrainians, what appears to be Ukrainian citizens, I can't be certain on that, demining the streets of Russian remote mines. When I say remote mines, that means that there are certain systems that you can fire mines into an area, like with artillery, and they just spread mines. That is what this is reported to be. A little bit less the focus. What I'd like to focus on is the techniques used. Here you are. Looks like potentially anti-personnel, maybe even a PFM-1 or something small, not necessarily big, but look what it does to that cinder block. Let's take a moment to talk about primary and secondary frag. So primary frag, not necessarily applicable here, but primary frag are the ball bearings inside of a claymore. It is the fragmentation from a frag grenade, the outside casing of the frag grenade purposefully perforated so that it breaks in a certain way. And all of that fragmentation that is primarily meant to come from the device itself. Then you have secondary fragmentation. That could be things like cinder blocks that have just gotten blown apart, bone, wood, other rocks, environmental things around it. A lot of that secondary frag is going to come off of that. He probably got peppered in the ass from it. But it's not done. Got another one for you here. I think this one's a little bit more fun. There's no sound. They rolled a tire into that one. All right, let's bring it up. We're going to jump over to Donetsk. We have some locations to talk about here. This is going to be a Ukrainian BRDM-2. Video takes place here. Just so you understand where it is along the forward line of troops. Okay, a little bit of a salient there, but this is a Ukrainian BRDM-2. It's going to be sitting along this, I don't know, in this field here. It's going to start engaging with its mounted gun, and it's going to get hit with an FPV drone. The BRDM-2 is a pretty dated platform, but still actively in use. Here you go. The BRDM is one of a few Russian vehicles that I've actually spent a little bit of time inside of. The other would be a T-72. But I've actually been inside of a BRDM-2 when it was driving, and it is not a roomy vehicle. So there, you know, a couple dudes in there smashed in like sardines, and that PG-7 is going to punch right through that thing. Just put it that way. Let's move to Kurakova. I don't have a geolocation for this, but it is in Donetsk, and I also don't have a great time frame for it. But what you're going to see here are 4 Ukrainians. I'm gonna let you watch the video, and then I'm going to bring it back and have you recollect something from the Funker 530 podcast, episode 1, if you were here for it, with Wayne. Here's the video. Got to keep the sound off for it, though. So you're seeing 4 Ukrainians essentially pushing out unarmed with just their armor on to drag back 2 wounded Ukrainians that appear to have been hit on exfil of an armored vehicle during an assault of some kind. I'd like to draw your attention back for those that were here for it. And if you haven't watched that, it was a fantastic discussion to our episode 1 of the Funker 530 podcast with Wayne. Wayne talked about a similar operation where he himself, along with others, essentially went out with the same purpose, unarmed themselves, to drag back wounded. So from first glance, something like this, well, that's training. That's a training environment, right? Well, there's a pool of blood around this guy's leg. And if I can get this thing to bump up the quality a little bit, you'll be able to see it. There it is down there. These guys are certainly wounded. These dudes, you know, I've used this term a lot. These dudes are absolutely big dicking it out there. That'll be the 3rd time I've used that term, and I'm trying not to use it, but I don't have a better one to describe what these guys are doing. I don't know if, you know, potentially the situation that they're in right now had changed, or the situation had changed, or how long these guys had been wounded. But just to show you that armored vehicle with the ramp down here, I don't know. This is one of those circumstances where video is an imperfect lens. You know, we don't know what we don't know in the situation and context surrounding this. They could have been waiting for an hour and had a drone up and saw Russians leave the area. Not certain. All right. Come back up. The guy was pretty stiff. He was screaming. Like, you could see his mouth open and he's wincing. This is somewhere near Seversk, an infantry fighting vehicle. And I think this one actually has audio we can use. An infantry fighting vehicle supporting infantry, doing what it's supposed to do, attempting to take Russian positions. So at some point in the video here, you're going to see some infantry come into view. There they are. Just to the left there under white light. Not really sure what that was, by the way. Explosion appears off camera left. Over here somewhere, we see dirt flying over it. The only reason I point that out is when I originally reviewed this footage, I thought it was the main gun that went off because it was quick. Some of this footage, I'm just like, okay, that gives, you know, a little bit of context. It's got, there's no music over it. It's relatively high quality. Let's use it. But I have no idea what that explosion was off screen left. This is an interesting one, okay? Here we're going to have a very, very large column from Russia. This is going to take place here. We're not very far from where we just were. But a very, very large column from Russia bebopping down this road, almost entirely comprised of non-tactical vehicles. Like a lot of non-tactical vehicles. There's nothing but pickup trucks. Okay, this is an area, I really think we're almost along, well, we're in the east. Operationally speaking, we're looking at the area where Russia has aligned most of its focus, where most of the ground that they've taken over the last 3 or 4 months, I would say, has been here. What's interesting about that, though, is the vehicles that they're using, right? I don't know. You be the judge. Here is the footage coming up for you guys now. Very high quality footage as well. So you've got like an MRAP of some kind leading the way. I did forget to mention that FPV drones kind of pick this apart. But these are all pickup trucks. Now, take this for what it's worth. Believe what you would like from it. There were quite a few Russian telegrams a little bit pissy about this footage. Largely because, once again, they're barreling forward at the forward line of troops with pickup trucks. You use what you got. I get that. Boop. Quote, high quality. I mean, it's higher quality than some of the potato stuff we watch, man. Sorry, it's not. Sorry, it's not in 4K for you, bro. Let's move on. In Luhansk, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. Not a chance at all. This takes place here. Not moving far. This is going to be the 3rd Brigade hitting Russian positions in a mechanized assault along with tanks. There is music on this one. We could probably play that. I don't know. Probably going to lose the live chat. Anyway, because of my potty mouth tonight. So you're seeing Ukrainians here taking these Russian troops captive. That's the footage that you're watching right now. You'll see you could see a green armband on this guy here, another green armband there, as they're dragging them out of that fighting position. So they opened, and there are more green armbands up here. They opened this fight using tanks to soften the area, and then infantry went in and supported, ultimately taking POWs. Let's head up to Kursk. It's kind of a brown pants video, if I've ever seen one. You're going to see a Ukrainian very, very narrowly escape this fiber optic drone. But here's where this one gets interesting. 2 sources published footage of this incident. One pro-Russian source, one Ukrainian source. From the drone, we have Russia releasing the footage of this drone strike. The Ukrainian then recorded him surviving and the aftermath of it. These are mashed together. Here's the footage. Oop.
Вот так, блядь. Ой, сука. Курскую область. Звільняємо. Єбать. Підари на оптоволокні літають. Єбать. А отут я сидів. Я хуй його знаю, ось що з ребом єба. Я, блядь, не знаю, як я встиг вискочити.
Yikes.
Це пізда. Якось так. Фух. Зі святами всіх.
one more time on that. I see a comment there that says Russians don't like to finish their videos. Well, I mean, this is the video of it, and you're not going to have a video of the explosion because the camera is on board the drone that explodes. So sometimes they'll have a secondary drone filming. That way they like to, well, I shouldn't say they like to, because that's a relatively recent thing over the past year or so. For the first little while, all we had was stuff like that. But sometimes there'll be a second drone up there in like an observer role for BDA is quite literally what it's there for. Let's move on. Discretion advised for this next video. This takes place somewhere in Kursk. I don't know exactly where, but it was published by the Russian border guards. Ukrainians attempting to take a house and FPV drones just absolutely wreaking havoc on their attempts to do that. Once again, discretion advised. Here's the footage. All right, coming up. I do have a geolocation for this one. This takes place here in Kursk. This is a Russian assault. Discretion advised for this one as well. There are deceased in this video. Russian assault, that effectively, the best way to describe it was just absolutely dismantled. So you see that IFV dropping off troops. Probably FPV drones, combination of mines. That looked like an RPG of some kind coming in there. I think this one's going to have a rollover problem here in a second. Yep. And there it goes. All right, let's bring it back up. Checking in on the support. Actually, let's go through the rest of the footage that I have from Kursk here, and then I'll jump over to check out that support. I need to start moving though. We're pushing time. This is going to be THAAD. It is a Bradley, right? A lot of the footage that we watch is THAAD, but I like the Bradley very much. This is effectively the story of one that is probably not with us anymore. Takes place here. I'll show you some footage of a Bradley attempting to exfil this area, moving its way from, effectively left to right here. From our perspective, we're actually going to be watching it from like this way, I want to say, where it's trying to back out, but is ultimately mobility killed. That'll be the first video, and then the second video is effectively Russia hitting it with FPV drones. First video coming up now, in a blizzard as well. So it's able to make it moving pretty quickly. You can actually see the 25 millimeter firing as it's backing out there too. If you blink, you'll miss it. Right there, right there, right there. So it's engaging here. There's a drone. Bink. It's going to come to its halt here. And that's the end of that video. We don't see anybody dismounting from it, but in a follow-up video that was released, we do see its ultimate destruction, or at least its continued targeting with FPV drones. Same Bradley, same location. Holy crap, guys. Yeah, give me a second. I'll go through all of these. Thank you guys so much. All right, coming up. We have a Ukrainian striker here up in Kursk being taken out by an FPV drone. Takes place there. The FPV footage is hard to choose what to cover. There is just so much of it that I oftentimes don't select any of it until after I have found everything else. And then I'll start to fill back in with anything pertinent, especially the things that I most importantly like to cover are FPV impacts on American vehicles. Their efficacy against American vehicles matters very much to me. Wonder why. You know, any FPV, I don't like covering a whole lot of just drone strikes just to cover drone strikes, right? That's effectively the point that I'm trying to make here is there's typically a purpose behind choosing to cover one. This one, I haven't seen a whole lot of footage of the striker, but here is at least a striker being hit by FPV drones. All right. This one is super interesting, guys. Like this is probably the most interesting video from a technology perspective that we're going to see tonight. Let me set the stage for you. Inside of Belgorod, you got a Russian driving with a passenger. He's got a screen in front of him and a radio, what it looks like a radio. It's actually a drone detection. It's a device that detects drones in the area. But the screen intercepts and displays the drone's feed. And you're going to see all of this as he identifies a drone, sees the drone's feed, goes and hides, comes back out on the road, and sees that drone hit the mystery machine, one of the loaf vans, the magic school buses, whatever they're called. I don't remember the nomenclature for it. We'll just call it a magic school bus. It got hit by the drone that he detected and went and hid in the woods from. Super interesting video here. Tons of context. So now he's back on the highway here and sees, once again, the Scooby-Doo van that got hit by that drone. But this is a capability that, I mean, technically, that feed is sent in the clear. It's an unencrypted feed. All you really have to do is sit in the middle and just say, hey, can I watch that? And you're able to. From a technology perspective, there's a little bit more to that. But the process is effectively the same. You don't have any public or private keys that you got to worry about, anything along those lines. We've seen Ukrainians do this stuff too. If you recall a bit of footage, Ukrainians were sitting in a house and they were watching a feed of a drone coming in, and then it hit their house, and they were like, oh shit, that was targeting us. We should probably leave here. Same conceptually. It's in the clear. It's not encrypted. You're able to do it as long as you just have the technology to sit in between operator and device or drone and listen or retrieve that same information. You're not necessarily stealing it because it's still being transmitted. You're effectively just reading it. Let's move on. This is an interesting one. It's not necessarily combat footage, but I thought it was interesting. We'll watch the footage and we'll talk about what you're seeing. So underneath of that tarp there is an M1A1SA. So the M1A1 Abrams situational awareness package. It's moving through Russia right now, probably with a destination towards, I don't know, some city square or something where they'll probably damage it further than it already is to just kind of bump up the amount of damage that it took or its defeat. Not unlike they did with this one. So the last one was shown off in Moscow. And before they showed it off, they wanted to beat it up a little bit more than they could when it was out there in the field. So they're going to take this weight and they're going to beat on the barrel of it. So this is old footage, but I wanted to just conceptualize that for you. For those wondering, some might not be as in tune with the Abrams that was provided. The M1A1SA is effectively an export model with an upgraded situational awareness or optics package. It's going to be devoid of the specialty armor that the Abrams that we use are, which is a very, very capable and classified armor. But these are effectively the same kind that we gave to Iraqis. There's a very popular story of one called The Beast for the Second Battle of Mosul in 2017, effectively taking Mosul back itself, piloted entirely by Iraqis. More or less, with a couple differences, not necessarily anything more or less technologically, just anyway, more or less this is an export model Abrams. What they're going to learn from this is the same thing that they'd learn if they went and yoinked the one that we gave the Iraqis. So just for folks that might not be familiar with the model that was provided. What do I want to cover next here? We're moving into our general section here. Is this the one I think it is? Oof, yeah. Here's two Russians in a trench. One tries to throw a grenade at, I don't know, a drone or maybe other infantry or something. It's going to bounce around for a second and then fall right back in on top of his buddy under cover here. You so need to watch that. I've seen Pentagon Wars, man. Yeah. I would disagree at this point with the Pentagon Wars, though. I think the Bradley has more than proven itself. There's an inordinate amount of evidence showcasing the Bradley's prowess in protecting its troops, in the missions that it's being used against. Yeah, so you guys saw that, right? So he throws that grenade, and then he gets rim-robbed by wherever he was throwing it, and then it bounces down underneath that pile of logs where his boy is. And you can still see the dude in there through the logs. He's moving, and then it blows up. All right. Yeah, we'll watch this one. So, RT, Russia Today, released some footage of the new technology that they're using to scoot around the battlefield. Here you are. I have more footage of the scooting coming up for you now. So you can't hate it, all right? First and foremost, right? Because they made it there. They got to their destination. The problems start happening when they got to their destination. Precisely. Tallahassee, Remington. Precisely. All right, that's about does it for that one. And I have 2 more videos for you guys. The first one, I had a chance to shoot this gun, and I had the exact same problems as this guy does, which is supposedly Ukrainian SOF, operating either an MG3 or an MG74, which is an Austrian variant of the MG3, in an unknown forest. I don't know exactly where this takes place. It's in a forest. He's trying to bang on whatever it is he's trying to bang on with an MG3 or 74, and he starts running into problems with it. I shot an MG74 about 2.5 weeks ago, and it was an absolute jam factory of a piece of junk. Here's the footage. I think the fire rate is too slow for this to be a 42, brother. You know, they called that Hitler's buzzsaw for a reason, didn't they? Just saying. I need to pause. A bunch of support from you guys, like a ton of it tonight, and thank you so much. Like, again, I say this a lot, but I don't know how to articulate the thanks nor repay you for all of this, because it's definitely appreciated but not necessary. Compiled Tech, thank you for the $5. You need to watch Pentagon Wars. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bradley, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I don't care. If you're out there in the active duty military and you want to bring me, I still have a CAC. You want to bring me for a ride along in your Bradley, we can do that. Like, whenever you want. I'm serious. I'll be the little kid sitting in there. I really want to. Anyway, let's move on. John, thank you very much for the $5. Is the team a fan of, I don't even know what that means. I don't know who that is. Never met her. But thank you for the $5, Steve. Super Steve, thank you for the $5. Hey, Ron, have you seen China's 6th gen fighter footage? Yep, we got it up on the website, brother. We didn't cover a whole lot of it tonight because I don't know anything about aircraft. Well, I mean, I know a little bit about a lot, not a lot about any one thing. When it comes to nuance around the different generations of aircraft and fighter jets, not going there. But the footage is on the website for you guys to look at. The Elevator Man, thank you for 10 gifted. Oh, holy crap, guys. Seth, thank you for the 12 months. Elevator Man, thank you for the 5 gifted. Before that, London Water for $100, man. Hey, Ronnie, hope your Xmas rocked. We had a great Christmas. Thank you very much, dude. I hope yours was great. I hope you got the chance to spend time with family. And, you know, even if not, I hope you got the chance to unwind a little bit. I think that's one of the things that I'd always recommend is separating a little bit from the World Wide Web when possible. Thank you very much for that 100, dude. That's so many dollars. CJ, thank you for the $5. HLC said, happy birthday. Fuck. Yeah, thanks, man. It's not my birthday. Wherever he said that, somebody go and let him know that it's not my birthday. And I feel like an asshole each time that happens because somebody could certainly be joining and believe, oh, it's his birthday. I'll send in $1. And then they send in $1 thinking that it was my birthday, but it's not. So then I'm the asshole when I tell them that it's not my birthday and it's actually you guys doing that. Thank you very much for the $5, brother. I appreciate that. Still moving through these. Fizzy, thank you for the 33 months, man. Tony, thank you for 5 gifted. Archeesy, thank you again, my man. Gunslinger, thank you. I got one more video for you guys, and then we're going to be jumping over to the other stream where I'm probably going to play a little bit of Space Marine 2, if not just drink bourbon and complain about stuff. You know, that's always fun. I have no idea what's happening in this video, but it looks like a lot of fun, and it reminds me a whole lot of my childhood. Take from that what you will. I appreciate you guys for being here. Tonight's sponsor was Venture Surplus. Make sure you're using the code FUNK10 to get 10% off of anything that you get over there. Whether you're looking for MREs and other freeze-dried goods, or you're looking for, I don't know, man, assault packs, or, you know, first aid kits. They carry a North American Rescue first aid kits. You get 10% off of what is already, in my opinion, a great price for those. They're the best first aid kits you can buy. Like I bought one. It's in my wife's vehicle. 10% off. Use the code FUNK10. We don't make any additional money when you use that. I saw some things come in over here, and I've got to pause to say thank you for it. Far From Freedom, thank you for the $20. Hi, Ryan. I love what you're doing. Love your support and your support for American. Well, I am unapologetically American, bro. Don't care. Yeah. Heavy is the crown. We share that pride, which is why we created Brick Up for a true American boner. I'm going to read it all the way through. Bro. Hi, Ronnie. Love what you're doing and your support for Americans. We share that pride, which is why we created Brick Up. Brick Up for a true American boner. LibertyLabsUSA.com, 50% off for veterans. Go get 50% off, guys. I guess. I don't know anything about the product. Just thanks, bro. I appreciate it. PM, thanks very much for the 556. Ryan, tell us about your cack. Is it big, small? It's floppy. Floppy white cack. Good night. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you guys on the follow-up stream. If you stick around in the chat, it'll automatically give you an option to click on it. It'll send you over. We'll play some games or drink bourbon and, you know, people watch maybe. Who knows? This video, again, no idea what's happening here. It looks like fun, and I wouldn't mind being a part of it. Good night. Stay informed and go be great. If you're trying to tell me that doesn't look like a lot of fun just to be out there with the boys, I feel like you're lying. This reminds me of a Tuesday growing up. Good night.